people you think out there that just continually dwell in that mindset rather than, is that the goal? I know there's no goal, there's no end goal, but in the case of how we're speaking right now in the game that we're playing, is that the goal, is to become the eternal witness in this body?
I think we are the eternal witness. That's kind of the situation that we're dealing with. And then all
Yeah.
this other stuff that we're getting caught up in is uh, the frictions or the waves on the surface of the water. Sometimes it's a major storm, but once you go beneath that, you see that's not really the fundamental. That's not the primary. This
Mm-hmm.
awareness is. And so people who go through spiritual development, they their perspective changes in the same way that someone who, this is might be a sensitive topic, but someone who has like a TBI, traumatic brain injury, something like that, that impact, it might change their perspective. And so they're no longer looking from that previous perspective, and that's their life. And with spiritual attainment and spiritual realization as well, it's just like with the seriousness or the sincerity of something like TBI. It's someone's life. It's this moment. It's this reality. And so you can't really make a metric of it, because once you experience it or once you go through that, sure, you can talk about it, but you're not speaking from that previous perspective.
Mm.
You're speaking from this perspective that you have right now. And
Yeah.
so as our perspective changes, that's the real attainment. But the person who was there before isn't attaining anything. And eventually, the further you go, there's less of a personhood before that perspective change. So eventually it's going from basically not a person at all to really there's nothing self-oriented in this experience.
Mm.
So for the Buddha, to bring up the Buddha as an example of this, the Buddha attained enlightenment, right? So we would say the Buddha attained the goal. But the Buddha attained enlightenment with conditions. So he was enlightened, but he also had a body. He felt pain. Felt emotions, happiness, sadness, gain and loss, because he had a body, but he wasn't attached to any of that. So when the Buddha died, we say that the Buddha attained parinibbana, or final nibbana. So the substance of the Buddha at that point, the person who we say is the Buddha, there was no self in that. So the body died, the senses died, the perceptions, the mind, all of that passed away. But what was the Buddha did not die. It just kind of, you could say, flowed out, but that's not the right way to say it.
Mm.
That what the Buddha was not separate from death.
Yes.
It was beyond birth and death. It was beyond any kind of contraction on change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the Buddha isn't necessarily the image of the Buddha like I have in my background. It's not Siddhartha Gautama. It's the Buddha is, I guess, putting it. It's an essence. It's just is. It's how would you describe with these mouth noises that we're using
Yeah.
what Buddhahood is?
Well, Buddhahood is our awareness nature. We say our Buddha nature, our total in tuneness without any attachment to all circumstances, all conditions arising and passing away. And there's a concept that the Buddha woke up to the way that things were. The Buddha didn't get something out of the ordinary. The Buddha woke up to the nature of the ordinary, the fundamental ground of being, you can say. So it's not the traditional Buddha Siddhartha Gautama. While we do venerate him as our founding teacher and philosopher, it's more that waking up. And that waking up, I was listening to a teacher recently who said that to become enlightened, to wake up in this way, is not difficult. Almost anyone can do it. But what is difficult is the work that comes after that. And that's moment to moment, keeping with that waking up practice, keeping up with that cultivation of our ethics and our meditation and all this.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, um, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water type of thing. It just doesn't. So the journey doesn't end after this so-called, you reach the goalpost of enlightenment. It's more so of the journey is the destination type of thing, right?
Sure, but if you think I am enlightened, that's a trap. You're
Yeah.
in a trap, so whether or not you are enlightened, once you start thinking I am enlightened, you're
Hmm.
getting yourself into a trap.
Mm.
So it's just to continue doing that work, that cultivation, working to become more compassionate, more gentle, more patient, more
Mm-hmm.
contemplative. And so there's this immediacy of waking up, what the Buddha woke up to, and we're all kind of, we're in that situation one way or another. But then there's also the gradual mind training, and this idea that for Westerners, we know that you can train the body to be very strong, especially if you take steroids and all these. I mean, you can be unbelievably strong. You can be an unbelievably amazing marathon runner if you train, especially compared to what a normal person would be who doesn't have a lot of activity. In the same way, we can train our mind pretty in depth, and the mind, of course, is a lot more subtle than the body. We train our bicep; it just gets a little bit bigger. There's a limit to that, but for training the mind, it's really expansive. We can take it really far. So having that humbleness about where we are and what our experience of enlightenment is, and just continuing to endeavor to cultivate peace and well-being, continuing to endeavor to not endeavor, which is to
Hmm.
just be here now, to just be aware.